we deal with our mistakes? When we make a mistake, maybe there is an error in our judgment and we made certain decisions or made certain steps that were not too wise. And sometimes we don't know what to do, whether to turn this way or to turn that way. And we are left disappointed in ourselves. We sometimes disappoint other people. And there are sometimes some serious consequences that accompany some of those mistakes. My name is Mwai, and allow me just a few minutes maybe to help you. Maybe you're in that place where you're trying to deal with some things that you have done, and maybe you have had it difficult, maybe picking up and moving on. Just allow me a few minutes of your time. So how do I deal with my mistakes? I think the first thing I have come to understand and I have come to learn from my own mistakes is that you are a human being. None of us is perfect. We are not perfect. Even the very best of us, it doesn't matter how well educated, how well versed you are, it doesn't matter how well experienced you are in this life, you will make mistakes. I have come to learn that. It doesn't matter how old you are, you will make mistakes until the day maybe the Lord calls you home. In this life, you will make mistakes because we are human, we are fallible. We lack sometimes some judgment, we lack wisdom, and that's why the Bible says that he who lacks wisdom ought to pray and ask for wisdom. Please understand that. So don't beat yourself too much. Please understand that you're not Superman. Understand that you're a human being. So don't beat yourself up. But then the second thing that you must do is that you must acknowledge that you have made a mistake. You must acknowledge that you erred. You must acknowledge that you did some things that were not so right and you made the wrong decision. Acknowledge it, and most importantly, acknowledge it before God. Acknowledge it to yourself. Do not try to justify yourself. Don't try to cut corners. Don't try to point fingers. If you made a mistake, you know that you did. Acknowledge the mistake. That is the first step towards healing. You must acknowledge it. If you need to confess, please confess it. The Bible says that he's faithful and just to forgive us. If you need to ask for forgiveness from somebody, please ask them for forgiveness. And maybe God willing, God will give them the grace to be able to forgive you. But then the third thing I've learned, you must forgive yourself. You must. Sometimes it's difficult forgiving ourselves, especially when we do something which we deem to be so foolish and so stupid, and something that we thought that we could never make that kind of mistake. Please forgive yourself. All right, have mercy on yourself, because it doesn't also help when you don't forgive yourself and you keep beating yourself. Forgive yourself, all right, so that you can be able to heal and be able to move on. But then the next thing you must do is that you must learn from that mistake. I think the worst tragedy is when we do certain things and we don't learn from those mistakes. Please learn from those mistakes. All right, there's always a lesson to be learned when we make mistakes. But then finally also is this, that if there are consequences, accept the consequences. Sometimes, yes, many times there will be consequences to some of the things that we do. There will be consequences. There will be consequences. Maybe you will have to go through those consequences, but you must face those consequences boldly and courageously, and God will give you the grace to overcome. And then maybe finally is that you must learn to put your mistakes behind you and move on. The future is still ahead of you, and there is still many things that are ahead for you, and God's plan over your life has not changed. So learn from those mistakes, deal with those, don't run away from your mistakes, deal with the consequences, forgive yourself, but then take the next step forward into the future. And as we study the Bible, we find a lot of men and women of God in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, who made terrible mistakes, but still God was able to move them and take them to the next level, and his purposes for their lives were still accomplished. So may the Lord bless you, may the Lord help you, and may the Lord grant you grace and mercy so that you can be able to move forward from some of the mistakes that you may have done. God bless you.